get a little bit more Terminator with your theme tune? I'm not complaining. I am Couch Coop. We're going to look at Generation Zero. We had a 2019 PlayStation 4 release of this game, and it was a bit controversial. It crashed at the start. This had a hell of a stumble on its release, and a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. No one really went back to it. 2023 is kind of looking pretty damn good. There is no PlayStation 5 version and no intent to bring one out. There's no PlayStation 5 boost if you put the 4 version in your machine. So that's kind of blown my mind a bit. We're looking at my PC version. This has just come onto Game Pass and we've got 1080 ultra settings and 60 frames per second. I'm extremely happy. Also very happy with the game's loyal 90s look. Look at this Amiga Commando. I had the similar joystick. I love how it's nodding all the time to its own timeline. This is set in kind of the mid-90s Scandinavian country. I love the woodland, I love the car designs, all the architecture. Everything puts you in a Half-Life Episode 2 mood. Yeah, I am mouse and keyboarding it at the start of this review. I tried both methods of control. Let's talk about the game's primary premise and its main mechanic, which essentially is open world gameplay. Not like Atomic Heart or anything on the Half-Life level. This is pure, massive open, go where you want world with a brilliant loot system woven in that isn't too dissimilar to games like Rust or Ark or crafters and survival games. There's been a 90s robot apocalypse, which is why all this machinery has got a bit of jank to it, a bit of cobbledness. I do love the reverse tech side of the imagery and the mechanics of the robots themselves. It's kind of like Boston Dynamics had a budget drop, but that's totally in canon with the timeline, and I love its loyalty on that front. It's really cool hearing and seeing some of these mad machines coming after you, and it's amazing how much you get introduced to early doors. And of course you can wander off and see what that terrifying silhouette is over on that hill shooting at you. It's also got a very robust stealth mechanic, which is quite a hard thing to do in an open world game of this size, especially one that's populated with quite a lot of things. The vision cones, they're attracted to noise, you are sneaking around absolutely crapping yourself. It's all about looting derelict buildings and sort of infiltrating this universe that's been totally overtaken by robots. There's very few alive NPCs around. Now let's talk about that single player or sort of campaign-esque content. There's loads of it, and that's what I wanted to test strictly offline. Just me seeing how much reward there is in there for knocking around on a solo front. Let's get to guns and loot first, because Jesus Christ, they're taken seriously, giving you multiple levels of pistol to start with and particular ammo types. But one thing I will say, on the keyboard and mouse, I did not get on with that weapon wheel. It's fiddly as hell, you end up putting the wrong thing on, and I've settled on using this game on a joypad in the end. But back to the loot and all the systems behind it, it's totally amazing. Some of the weapons and the scopes you can put on, there's like 7 attachment slots for all the weapons, and you've also got some close quarters stuff going on here. Ammo isn't the rarest commodity, but you will run out if you start playing this game like Doom Eternal. Paint jobs and skins and aesthetics and attachments and apparel, different things to wear, and even crafting clothes is massive. And you can also tell the sort of online aspects of that because there's loads of cosmetic, cool stuff to put on. You can go around with a funny hat. You do find some amusement on that level. But it's this mist, it's this free roaming aspect, it's these scenarios you wander up to and sort of unfold, find all the robots and what they've done to everybody, go through all the cars and get more ammo and health. You just feel like you're playing your own adventure. I'm pretty sure these little dudes are head crab nods, love the way they jump, even love the way that the grass parts when they walk around weirdly, and the rays coming through the trees as you're pumping bullets into a strangely designed 90s robot dog is kind of a sweet spot for me. This game is doing everything I want it to correctly. I am extremely impressed with the graphics. I'm extremely impressed with the world they've built. You've got a dynamic day and night system. You have a little bit of weather, but it's just the colours and the forests and the way they're integrated with the mechanical machines. You see a lot of really cool stuff happen. The flare that I throw out here when it hits the light. There are quite a few effects at play here, and the frame rates, they stick between 50 and 60. They don't dramatically drop, but it wasn't a peg 60, especially when I got into a heavily populated area or when crazy stuff like this starts happening. It is also nicely difficult, giving you the opportunity to come back after death if you've got the adrenaline things to pump in, which you'll find here and there. They're not unlimited, so you will have to eventually spawn back at your base. So the whole world is kind of locked on that front. Anything you found will still be in your inventory, and all the stuff you've killed is not too much respawning. So it's a little bit like the Dark Souls system, where you're back at the bonfire and you've got to attack everything again, just without that respawn of every single enemy in all of the areas around that initial restart point. Explained not very well. My point being, progress isn't chucked in the bin, and you can sort of build on a character, start getting loads of resources and making your ammunition and health packs, and sort of go back to that situation stronger because you've come from the base and you're more prepared this time. Scenes like these, where you sort of emerge from your bunker, sunlit, beautiful village that you've got to infiltrate and yank out some valuable piece of loot from. There may even be a shotgun in there somewhere. It really warms my cockles. It's a game loop that I have a lot of time for. And thinking back, I was lucky enough not to look at this in 2019, so I didn't have that sort of bad picture of the game in hindsight. And as you can tell, that's what's happening here. I'm really struggling to find a bad thing to say about this game. The only thing so far is the keyboard and mouse roll and weapon wheel is just like a roulette. Let's talk about its distraction techniques, because they're very cool. They use music a lot, and you walk around with radios. They're like loot. You can throw them out and activate them. They'll all get pulled to the noise. They're used just as a flare or anything else that makes a loud, distractive noise, explosive barrel, some sort of chain reaction. It's all about duping them into going to an area so you can blow them up with some sort of combustible bomb that will go off after a well-aimed pistol shot. Before I completely forget, there is an episode of Black Mirror, I think it's season 2, I'm going to screen grab it and put it up, and it's all about this poor woman that gets stalked by one of these, quite literally Boston Dynamic dog things that's got a kitchen knife on the front, hell no what else. It's an amazing episode, it's completely standalone, it's about 40 minutes long, and if you really want to get embedded in some of this amazing lore attached to this game, go and have a look at that episode ASAP. Let's talk about what changes at night time. Not too much with the gameplay model, slightly increased stealth sphere I imagine when moving around, but it's just so cool to see all these lights, the red lights that come from the robots themselves, and all of the derelict police cars with their sirens flickering and going. It really does increase the atmosphere, and I love both night and day in this game, purely because they offer such immersion on how great this world looks when it's cast under different times of day.
I even heard reports of even bigger machines. It was brutal. Over.
Do you know who sent them? And have you seen all the people? Over.
Negative. No idea where they are from. I took part in the evacuation of all civilians to Vestland before the attack, but since then, Vestland went radio silent. Over.
Radio silent. Always be prepared, they said. Over and out.
Scandinavian accents seem to tie into sci-fi lore with me really easily. It's like half the job's done. Imagine if this was set in Yorkshire, it'd just be a very different angle. The story also involves Russia and some weird stuff going on with how this apocalypse occurred, and it's got this lost aspect with you being at the start of this whole unraveled story that you've got to get to the top of and find out why the whole planet has been potentially taken over by these killer robots. Who are they from, what are they doing, and why do they want to kill everybody. That's a big draw for me. Talking of Yorkshire, we haven't spoken about the push bike or the bicycle or the cycle, which is essentially brilliant because it's silent, it gets you around quicker, you spawn them for free, and there's a big incentive or a big push to show you that there's going to be a hell of a lot more on that front, and there's petrol, gas canisters, repair kits. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Traversal in a different vehicle than a push bike. There's also what looks to be the mechanics for a massive companion system, giving you one of these dogs as your own with skins, commands, and they will fight the other enemy robots, so you've got some protection and allocation of commands. That sort of stuff I friggin' love. Personalising your little companion, even bolting on some more badass gear. That's an amazing section to this game on its own, and even some of the bigger tank robots can technically be tamed, with it back at the Ark analogy. So that's just a whole wealth of incentive to open up and see what this game's going to give you on that front.
Over and out.
It's also not always about exteriors, and I love how they've done the corridors, giving you a light, and some of the effects are awesome. The shadows is quite scary, all the noises ricocheting off the close walls, and you having to use quite a lot of weaponry because there's huge amounts of machinery embedded within these bunkers that you've got to take back. They also will switch to a safe house, so it's something you desperately need to get done. And the campaign intertwines some very interesting locations also. And that kind of brings me back to how this game was originally marketed, or how it's viewed upon by the gaming community. It's kind of like an online, get your friends on board, you've got to do this with a whole bunch of people, there's no solid campaign content here. That's so wrong. This is a perfect single player offline game. I cannot stress that enough. I am so pulled in with it, and all of the unlocks and things you don't need microtransactions for are still really cool to access.
Machines patrolling the base.
As you can see, shit's getting quite real now with the stuff that I'm encountering, and I love the ramp and scaling of all the enemies as you level up and traverse this map. That is done quite well. You don't often feel shortchanged on difficulty with that campaign level and getting to, you know, the next missions. Everything's pretty organic, and that was quite a difficult thing to do, I think, with an open world game like this, where you have a choice to go for different missions or side quests. Yeah, it doesn't feel broken on any sort of huge difficulty spikes anywhere at all, unless you wander off the beaten track, which will give you quite a lot of surprises. That's basically suicide, what I did just then. And the RPG didn't even touch the sides on the damn thing. It's really cool to take on some fights that you know you blatantly aren't supposed to. And looking at things through the binoculars also gives you some advantage. There are weak spots to these things, or elements that they don't enjoy encountering. You go back to this after your 2019 experience with it. Well, before putting this video together, I'm looking at, you know, some of the other YouTube content creators out there. There's a lot of 2023. We're all going back to Generation Zero, or, you know, it's all been sorted, all's forgiven. I am totally off that policy, even though I didn't see the broken version of this game, and I'm struggling to even imagine that version of the game, because everything has just been silky smooth, tied together brilliantly, and all of the loot has been in the right place, and all of the cool stuff has happened at exactly the correct times, giving it a great bit of pacing. And I feel that I'm in control still, with it being an open world, essentially first person shooter. They should have a friggin' PlayStation 5 boosted version of this, or an SSD full-on PlayStation 5 release. I definitely think it will sell. All the work they've put into those beautiful DLC packs and the little adjustments they've made to a lot of the gameplay problems has just made it one of the best open world sci-fi games available on the market, particularly Game Pass. That is the no-brainer version of this on the PC. Get it all up on Ultra and have a damn good time. I'm that obsessed with this that I might push my mates to get it on their Xboxes, and we'll all see what that 3-player co-op stuff is like, because fighting the robots with more than one person, I love that, getting on the bike animation. Fighting these robots with more than one person is just going to be nothing but a hell of a lot of fun. I've been Couch Coop. I will see you down there. Subscribe, alright?